So Donald Trump had a brilliant solution in the wake of the mass shooting and terror attack in Orlando. More guns. Shocker. I mean, these people on the far right concluding in every single scenario that more guns is the answer. Has there ever been a situation where more guns wasn't the proposed solution from some people? I don't think so. So he said the following. If you had guns in that room, even if you had a number of people, having them strapped to their ankle or strapped to their waist where bullets could have flown in the other direction right at him, you wouldn't have had that tragedy. Okay, so let's discuss the multiple things wrong with this way of thinking. This is a classic case of micro picture versus macro picture. So yes, in that instance, when you're in the club and somebody comes in and they're gunning people down, at that instance, everybody in the world wishes, if they were in the club, I wish I had a gun so I can respond and I can gun this guy down. Nobody denies that, and if they deny that, they're crazy and they're not thinking right. But the broader issue is, you just set the precedent of allowing guns in nightclubs, and you came out in favor of that. Well, if we had guns in nightclubs all across the country every day as a general rule and as policy, the net number of deaths from those guns being in the club would be amazingly high, stunningly high, immensely high. Why? I don't know. Maybe because a nightclub is the exact wrong place where you'd want weapons, because you're typically dealing with a bunch of people who are really fucking drunk, many of them very jealous, getting into fights over significant others and people you're hooking up with, and, you know, somebody bumps into you in the club in the wrong way and they're in a bad mood and one thing leads to another and you're shoving each other and you get into a fist fight. I would love to see stats, although I'm sure they don't exist because this is so broad, on the number of fist fights that happen daily in clubs in America. I mean, that number's got to be absurdly high. At least 300, right? Maybe 400 on a weekend, over 1,000 fights that happen in a club. Now, just imagine in every single one of those fights, somebody had a gun. Everybody has guns. How quickly would people get to shooting? Now, some people listening right now will go, hey, if I had a gun, I wouldn't shoot in that scenario. That's nice. Congratulations. You're more rational than many people across the country. Because we know, based on the gun death statistics we have right now, not everybody's fucking rational. And there's heat of the moment stuff, and there's passionate stuff, and, you know, people can get overcome by anger, jealousy, whatever, and then they start shooting. So, I mean, a surefire way to see the overall macro picture gun death shoot up in America is if you said everybody carried guns in clubs. I mean, that is such a bad idea. So, that's such a bad idea that even the NRA came out and said, Trump, that's stupid. When you go to the right of the NRA, and not just the people in the NRA, who are actually pretty reasonable when you look at the polls, but the leadership of the NRA, when you go to the right of the leadership of the NRA on gun policy, oh my goodness, you've hit some sort of record for being the most far-right person ever. So Wayne LaPierre, the guy who's viewed as the head of the NRA, he came out and said, quote, I don't think you should have firearms where people are drinking. Oh, that's amazing. We finally found somebody who Wayne LaPierre is to the left of on gun rights. Another NRA leader said, no one thinks that people should go into a nightclub drinking and carrying firearms, except Donald Trump. That defies common sense. It also defies the law. Oh, that's great. So it's unanimous among the leadership of the NRA. This guy went too far right on guns. Dude, you have to think. But see, that's the thing that's so scary. Well, one of many things that's scary about Donald Trump is that he has no filter, and he's not a thinker. Like, he's not intellectual. So you tell him about that scenario. Hey, man, a horrible terrorist attack and mass shooting. A guy went into a club and gunned down 50 people. Whatever the first thing that comes to his mind is, he just blurts it out. Well, I wish everybody who's in the club was armed and then it'd be okay. And by the way, also, side note, you're not fucking Steven Seagal. You're not Chuck Norris. This isn't a fucking movie. There's so many instances where people are armed and then somebody comes in shooting and they just get killed anyway. Why? Because you don't have but 0.01 seconds to respond and pull it out. You're not an old Western. So even if you had guns, it wouldn't be necessarily save the day. But think about that. His first reaction is, well, I wish everybody was armed in the club. There. Problem solved. Problem solved. Oh, you jackass. You didn't stop and think for a second. Okay, what if everybody in all the different clubs throughout America every night had guns? Oh, that would make the gun deaths tick up, wouldn't it? There'd be so many instances of individual shootings any given night that it would make the statistics go up overall and more people would die. He couldn't stop and piece that together. He couldn't piece it together. And also, the final point, there's also the issue of crossfire and stuff like that. It's a dark club. People are drunk. You take out a gun. You fire back. You don't know who the fuck you're firing at. There could have been more casualties if you did that. You miss the guy. You shoot somebody else. The bouncer gets in the way. What? A million things could happen. He's like, no. The first thing that comes to his mind, yeah, arm everybody in the club and everything will be better. Oops, I just made it so thousands more people die every year because of my idiotic gun policy. And even the NRA disagrees with me. Well done, Donald.